Hi friends, it's Megan with Art Garden Oracle, and I am here today to do the hashtag, the VR 10 Forever cards to Nova Luna Tarot. So I'm so thankful for this tag. I love these one card tags because I feel like it really helps deepen, when I watch other people's, it helps me to deepen my knowledge of what individual cards mean, rather than just like looking at beautiful decks, which is also fun. So I thought this was a great way. I don't think I've done a single card VR yet. So, oh, sorry, squeaky chair. This feels like a fun one to do. And then, yeah, hopefully I'll get that other content on soon. I've been talking for way too long about trying to get the art and garden and more creative project side of my channel going. And it just keeps evolving and kind of shifting and changing as I try to figure out exactly what I want to do. So, coming soon. Also, I've been trying to finish my my astrology studies. I'm at the end of several courses all at once. I'm trying to prep for tests so I can start my astrology readings. We've had a lot of illness. I actually have a sick kiddo home today, so I might have to pause this a few times. But anyway, life is complicated, eh? Anyone else feeling that? I feel like everyone I talk to is like just barely holding on right now. Okay, so this is my favorite cheeky deck from the Pasta Tarot. It's a mass market deck by Rob Truglia and Jeff Petriello. I surprised myself by picking this card. This is the Four of Discs, the Minuta's Tiny Pasta. I have many other cards I'll just show briefly that I love so much. I really like the disc suit in this deck. And a lot of the major arcana. So it's just a lovely deck. This is wands, Quarta is wands. And Minuta again is discs. But the reason I chose the Four of Minuta is because oftentimes the Four of Discs in other decks makes me feel bad. And it is a quality all of us have, this kind of like, and it doesn't have to be a bad quality, this idea of kind of like stowing away for the future. I think some decks depict it kind of neutrally or just like being careful with your resources, and some decks depict it very negatively, like you're a hoarder or a miser or, get yours and keep it from the rest. But this card just has this like, brings this innocence to the meaning of the card that I really like, of like, everyone has that inner child in them that wants to eat dessert first and wants to eat all the dessert. And, if they were being honest, doesn't want to share it, And I just love like the innocent take on the Four of Discs that this card shows. I feel like it's really sweet. I am definitely looking for ways to show grace to myself and to others in life right now. I'm just juggling so many things. So that's why I love this card. And this whole deck is just a keeper. It was hard to pick one. But yeah, this is one I've always loved. And as I was flipping through, thinking I was going to pick another card, this one just rose to the surface. Okay, let's see. I think I got 10. I had to pull out a bunch of honorable mentions because I went so far over. But this deck is, holy crap, here we go. I'm gonna forget every single name of every single deck. The Somnia Tarot, sorry. So this is a photographic deck. It's an independent by Nicholas Brunelli. Sorry, I might be forgetting his name. His box is far away and I have a squeaky chair, so I don't want to get up. I love the star card. It's one of my cards that is kind of like, there was another tag going around about like cards you look to first when you get a new deck. So the star card's kind of one of those for me, that it just has a very profound, just kind of meaning connection to the star card. It's just very much a healing card and about taking care of yourself, finding ways to I don't know, just go inward. And I have chronic illness, and healing, self-healing, a healing journey has been a very big part of my life for the last 10 plus years that I've been struggling with chronic illness and trying to sort it out and not sorting it out and all of those things. And so the star card has just had particular importance to me. And what I love about this card in particular, and a lot of star cards do kind of depict this idea, it almost has a hermit quality to it, this particular star card. Oh, here comes a kid. Hold on. Mom, can you pause it, please? Hold on. So I think that's why the star card has been so powerful for me, especially over the last 10 years. The other thing that star card has really been bringing up for me lately, and that I love about this particular card too, is that I think my draw to it has been the correlation that I've kind of developed with the star card of inner, like, personal work that I've been doing around my healing journey too, of embracing the fact that I'm an introvert. And I think so much about my illness and so much about just my journey with tarot, my journey with all of my spiritual side, has been this kind of conflict I've had, feeling the pressure of society and culture and everything to be an extrovert and achieve and do and, you know, be bubbly and be the perfect mother and be the perfect everything. And so much about my tarot journey, my healing journey, my spiritual journey has been embracing my introverted self, realizing that it's not bad to be an introvert, realizing the damage that I've done to myself, to my soul, to my body, with, by not having boundaries, by not realizing what truly heals me, fills me up, and what truly drains me. And so the star card for me has very much been about that. It's this like going inward kind of healing energy, figuring out your kind of making peace with your inner healer, mixed with a little bit of hermit card in this card in particular that I love so much. And yeah, here's some of, there's so many again in this deck that were so hard for me to choose from. I know this deck kind of freaks a lot of people out, or just seems really dark to a lot of people, but I find it beautiful. High Priestess was like a really close second. Oops. So this is the Playful Heart Tarot. I love this deck so much. Since I finally got the full deck, I actually really like the dark cards in her deck so much. And this is one, the Nine of Swords, is very much about nightmares and kind of, you know, battling your own psyche. And I just love the dark cards in her deck because they still examine those dark places, but they bring a sweetness or a playfulness to it that really helps me to, again, see some of these harder cards a little bit more gently, because I do really love the hard work. I love shadow work, and I really love to go deep with that stuff. But yeah, especially when I'm feeling a little fragile, it can go challenging or dark sometimes, a little too dark maybe, or a little too hard on myself. And so yeah, what I love about this card so much is you still get that, like, you know, kind of and I also, another reason I resonate with this card is I have a bit of insomniac tendency. You know, some of it's tied up with my chronic illness too, and chronic pain. But I can just relate to this, you know, being in bed, everything running through your head constantly, not being able to sleep, thinking the worst, running through your head with your thoughts way too much. And what I love about this particular card is you get all of that energy, like you're being your own worst enemy and letting your thoughts go wild and thinking all the negative, awful things, you know, when really you just need to go to sleep and you'll probably feel a lot better in the morning. But I love how not only is like this character, this, you know, bunny or whatever it is, thinking all of these crazy thoughts, but it also seems like they're scared of each other, you know, like some of them seem like they're running from each other. And just this idea that, like, how far you can let your thoughts run away, you know, and like how powerful that can be, and how often like what tortures you in the night is really, yeah, I mean, it just has so many so many layers to it, right? There's like culture and media and like so many things assaulting our brains all the time, and it's just such a jumbled mess where's the beginning and where's the end of it kind of situation. And I just get that feeling from this card more so than other cards. And again, just like kind of being able to laugh at that, or being able to just, again, see it outside of yourself is so helpful to acknowledging what's really going on in my head late at night when I should be sleeping, and trying to break that spell a little bit. So yeah, her dark cards are really great for that sort of thing. I really like her devil card also, which I thought I put in here, and I guess I did not. Oops. This is another one of those dark cards. The Eight of Swords, preceding the Knight of Swords, which I have been drawing a lot recently. Okay, so that is 3. This deck is, I'm trying to remember, I think it was my 3rd tarot deck ever. So this is the Dark Goddess Tarot. Lorenzi Prince, is that right? I think that came to me. Anyway, I really relate to the disc suits a lot. I watched Krista's VR this morning, and she said the same thing. So I'm like, I wonder, I know I have a ton of earth in my astrology, or a ton of, earth in my astrology chart. I wonder if she does too, or if people who have a lot of earth in their chart relate to the disc suit the most. But this is She Who Watches. So this is actually a native American deity that is very close by in location and in tribe to where I live. So this is at Celilo Falls, and this is a very, I'm probably not going to do the myth justice or the story justice, but I pulled this card a lot when I was working with this deck. This was the first deck that I really sat down and did a deep dive study and correlated every single card to every single card in the RWS, and I just found such profound meaning from doing that. The Hag of the Earth is the Queen of Disc, which is another one of my kind of cards that I look to in every single deck and identify with a lot, or just derive a lot of meaning from. So this is just a beautiful story of a deity that resides in the earth but is very much alive. And I also really I'm very steeped and connected to and love any sort of spirituality that is very deeply earth-centered. So it's just this beautiful, I think that's why I'm so connected to this card, because it is very much like a goddess in the rocks, of this beautiful, what used to be some falls of the Columbia River, and which of course now is dammed. And the other part of what really struck me with this card was that this sacred site of the Native people is underwater now for our power needs from the Columbia River. And so this extra layer of meaning from this card that I love so much is, again, just thinking of what we do to Mother Earth. And I don't necessarily feel desperate. It's a healthy call to action for me of wanting to do better and wanting to help and wanting to be reminded of ways to try to heal things that we have damaged and that we have hurt in other people's cultures, and that we have hurt ways that we have hurt Mother Earth. So yeah, this is just, it's a beautiful card that but this whole deck I find to be really incredibly beautiful. Oh, that's funny, this one was actually going to be my card, and I went back to Hag of the Earth again, which is just fine. But I'm originally from Louisiana, so this is the Voodoo Queen, Maman Brigitte, and I love this. It just immediately is a touchstone into where I think a lot of my alternative spirituality maybe originated. I don't have any direct linkages to any, you know, all of my like Louisiana family is very straight-laced, but I just know there's been some rebel women in my ancestry that I may never directly know about, but this one also makes me really happy. I had to include Mary L in here. So this is Mary L Tarot by Mary White. The Nine of Swords is typically not a card that I look to, even though it's funny, I have already shown a Nine of Swords in the Playful Heart Tarot, but Mary L is just a very powerful deck for me. I love the Mary L Tarot so much. And this card is one of the cards that keeps popping up for me when I work with her. And so what I love about it is it's not necessarily the traditional tarot meaning of the RWS type stuff, which the Mary L deviates in imagery and in meaning from a lot of the traditional RWS, but you can still tie it in if you kind of work at it. So this one, even though it's not necessarily the traditional Nine of Swords, it's very much a liminal card between the mundane earth and life we're living and struggles and successes and the other side. So this is very much like a grappling with mortality kind of card for me, because as much as it's about being grounded in this life and, you know, the daylight and like what's apparent, it's also very much about the underworld or the afterlife or the mystery and what isn't real. So that's kind of where some of that traditional Nine of Swords energy kind of gets pulled in, that kind of mental play with what's real and what isn't. But more so, this was also the very last card that she painted of all the tarot cards, which I find really interesting. So yeah, for me, this is very much a card about that really kind of like symbolizes my spiritual seeking over my entire life, is kind of this play with like what's on the other side, you know, what's the bigger purpose, what is, you know, kind of working with that energy, working with ancestors, working with kind of embracing the unknown, but also very much being present in our lives and realizing that if we spend our time, all of our time thinking about, you know, the esoteric and forget to live our lives, that like we're missing the point. And that all we do know 100% for sure is like this moment right now, and what is physical and what is present in like the here and now. And so I love this card for that. It's such a great reminder when I pull it of like, yes, like spiritual work is great work. Thinking about the larger purpose or the larger meaning or like what's next or what's on the other side is valuable, but don't forget to live your life. Don't forget to find beauty and pleasure in the mundane. And also, again, coming back to like my healing journey, it's easy to get overwhelmed or get sad or get desperate or, you know, fear like what my body's going to be doing tomorrow. But just one of the biggest lessons I've learned is no matter like what I'm going through in this particular day, just trying to embrace what is positive and what I can do and not get so lost in the what ifs or I wish this or that, but really just to try and sit with where I'm at and work with that and not get lost in what could be or should be or I wish could be. There's so many beautiful cards in this deck. I've said it many times that this is another card I get all the time when I work with her. And this is young Siddhartha. But yeah, Mary L is like one of my all-time favorite decks by far. This is Philarkos Tarot. This is the Seven of Spirals, which is, is it discs? I feel like I should know that. Yes, it's discs. Okay, sorry. And I said this, I think, long ago in my like top 10 mass market decks that was filmed badly, and I will redo someday because they've changed. But this is Valley Myers, or she doesn't explicitly say it in her guidebook, but it has to be. And Valley Myers is one of my like inspiring. It's not even that I like love her art so much. Her actual art isn't my aesthetic and doesn't speak particularly well to me, but her life as an artist is like where my hero worship lies of her. And just how like passionately she lived life, and how beautifully she just like embraced who she was without very many apologies for it. So I love this card, and it's honestly why I got the deck. But she also was an incredible lover of animals, and kind of like, but wasn't a vegan. I mean, she was such an interesting person, but she had this like animal refuge in Italy with her partner, who wrote a memoir about her. And she was just like this Empress energy, which I feel is very much apparent in the Seven of Discs card. But, you know, she was just like an animal whisperer in so many ways. And this card is a little bit like that. So the Seven of Discs is one that pops up a lot for me. And it's one that I really like. There's a lot of different meanings through different decks for the Seven of Discs. Sometimes it's portrayed really negatively, sometimes it's portrayed neutrally. But yeah, this one in this particular deck is very much about listening to the earth and listening to the messages that come through, which yeah, like my traditional association with RWS for Seven of Discs is kind of like, whoa, the harvest, you know, sometimes it's like waiting for the harvest. But for me, it was very much like, whoa, I planted way more than I should have, and I'm overwhelmed by the harvest. And maybe that's just me as a gardener associating that particular nuance to the meaning of the card. But I love this just because it's about, this particular deck feels very much more like listening to the earth, listening to its messages, letting it be a teacher, which, as I've already explained, is very much how I roll with my spiritual practices. I should have said nudity warning. I apologize. I love this Empress. It's a little like creepy at first, but these are ladybugs all over her. And Empress is another one of my cards. I'm a Taurus rising, so I think that's why, that I always look for. And I just love this one. I love how she's like very much of the earth. Like she's got rocks for hair and, you know, plants growing out of her. I just think it's a beautiful card. Oopsie, I'm doing it again. Here's my Taurus Queen of Discs. I'm talking about cards that I said I wouldn't do. I would just talk about one. Okay. This is the Banksy Tarot. I believe it's out of print right now. I got it on Etsy. I love this. I love Banksy. He's one of my favorite artists. I love street art in general. But I just love this card. Like, both of these characters were like very pivotal in my childhood and very important, but also the Lovers is my life card or purpose card. I can't remember what Mary Greer calls it. And then the Devil is my teacher card. So the Lovers and the Devil is also very much cards I look to all the time. And yeah, this is just one of my favorite Lovers cards. And, you know, there's not like a depth of meaning that this card brings to me. It just makes me really happy. So that's why. I love these other cards, so I'm just going to show you briefly. This one does have a depth of meaning that I really appreciate in our modern world. This card I love. I almost picked this card as the one from this deck more. But yeah, there's just so many iconic cards in this deck that that could easily have been in place of the one I chose. But that Lover's card just makes me so happy, and is so innocent and sweet, you know? When you have like that as your like life card, it's one that I can grapple with sometimes. But that one just makes me feel happy. Okay, this is the Vision Quest Tarot. This is one of my like regular use decks that I use with the medicine cards, and I love this deck a lot. This is the Temperance card, And what I love about this deck again is like I keep going back to the same theme of the beautiful way that it uses earth as very much like a character in every card, and deeply weaves kind of earth teachings into every card. So this is just, and also I love this card because it's such a different meaning for temperance. Or, you know, it's the same meaning, but it brings out a lot more depth for me in terms of what the temperance is. So I love the spider weaving her web in the corner, which is often, you know, I see spider symbology in a lot of tarot cards, but very rarely in the temperance card. But I just love kind of the magic that's happening from her weaving. And in the guidebook it says, so in the guidebook she says the spiritualization of matter, which I love that kind of like short keyword for the temperance card too. And it's just so beautifully depicted in this card. So yeah, again, like going back to this deck very much has a Thoth inspiration to it too. So alternatively, in the Thoth deck, this card relating to art, I think, is a really I feel like this card really encapsulates all of those meanings really, really well. The RWS, the Thoth, and then just its own as well. Like, I love this beautiful death card. This is what I mean. It's just like the minors are often very pippish, but there's so much information there, and they deeply weave earth energy into all the meanings of the cards, which I really, really love about this deck. And then going back to all that wonderful earth energy too is the Herbcrafter's Tarot. I am an avid gardener, and I grow a lot of medicinals, and so this deck is just like one of my favorites for working with my garden, working in my kitchen, just day to day, like connecting with plants, like in the wintertime now that I can't go outside and garden. I just find the way that this deck connects to plants to be so beautiful. And I already said the devil is my teacher card, and so it's often one that I look to, and I always love a devil that is blackberry pie instead of an actual devil with chains around people. And so this is one of my all-time favorite devil cards, and I love that it's blackberry. You know, it's one of these plants that totally overtakes and cuts you up as you're trying to like pick the fruit, and is just brutal, but everyone like needs to eat, and so there's all these ways in everyday life that we have to get ensnared, right? That we have to like make sacrifices or choices that hurt somebody, if not ourselves. And I just love like how beautifully the blackberry symbolizes that. That sometimes, you have to dance with the devil. Like, that's part of being a human being, and we all make decisions that harm or that have consequences. And we all get caught up in being on the material plane all the time, for better or worse. And the devil card has been an amazing teacher card for me, for sure. And it's also very often a stalker card for me, which can be challenging. I love what she says in her book. I put this, I brought this out with the card, but sweet berries, sharp brambles, beware. Let awareness awaken the power of choice, which I love how this talks to the lovers being a teacher card for the lovers, because that's so much what the lovers card has been for me in my life too, is it's clearly a choice card. It's about making choices, but really like having as much consciousness around the choices that you make, and knowing yourself as best you can as you make choices, and learning from your choices, and all that entails. But I think yeah, I think this is something that we give up as human beings way too easily, is and again, to like give ourselves grace for it, like it's hard to be a human. We have to make so many choices every day, which is maybe a big part of the sickness of our culture. But you know, you can't be like perfectly conscious with every choice you make. It's too much. And if we just beat ourselves up for it all the time, there's not much good in that either. But a beautiful thing to strive toward, right? Like, go carefully. Like, if you go just picking blackberries wildly to fill up your bucket as much as you can, you're going to come out like a hot mess, bloody all over the place. But if you go in mindfully, and take just what you need and like make a beautiful pie out of it in the end, and you do it thoughtfully and carefully, like you're not going to get as beat up. And I think that's a really good lesson I've been working with. Good Lord. I'm also just like being, maybe I'm being too thoughtful with these, or too verbose always. That's my problem. I love this card too, 8 of Ginger. I love all these cards, but yeah. That is Herbcrafter Tarot by Joanna Powell Colbert. She did, nope, I'm not going to tell you that. No, Gaian. She did the Gaian Tarot. I thought I was going to forget. I think this is my last one. So this is the Witch's Wisdom Tarot, and this is one that messes with the system more. She messes with the major arcana more than the minor arcana, and so I've always said that that doesn't bother me, and generally speaking, it doesn't bother me. But in this particular deck, I find I don't use her tarot deck super often as a tarot deck, because it messes with me more than I thought it would. Or I don't even know. Maybe it's that her guidebook, like I like to read her guidebook, but it's really hefty. I don't know what it is, but I don't use this as much as I'd like to, because so many of the cards I find are just the most incredible, wonderful artwork that I love to the ends of the earth and back. This card, I have like just this very profound memory of looking through this deck with my son, and he, of all the cards, pulled this one out and was just like, Mom, it's so sad. And it is, because you have on one side these beautiful polar bears and her polar bear and her cubs, and then, you know, the reflection in the water is, you can see, you know, she's starving, the ice is melted, and she's lost one of her bears, and you know, there's garbage in the ocean as well. But this is just a card that like hits my heartstrings super hard, and in a painful way, but in a way that I feel like is necessary, that I love that tarot does to me, of yeah, waking up and not forgetting like my values, and not forgetting to come back to my values and try and live more in tune with them as much as possible. And recognizing my impact on the earth and on other human beings, and trying to heal whatever is in my power to heal. So I love this card, not only for the artwork and the beautiful like heart pang it gives me, but for the call to action and like way it puts me back in touch with my values. And this deck, there's lots of cards that have some kind of bizarre artwork. It's, you know what, I do watercolor, and it's really hard to paint a person in watercolor, I will say that. So that's usually the ones that kind of are like, ooh, that face looks weird or whatever. But all of the landscape and natural cards are so incredibly amazing. I love this deck so much. I love the artwork. And I said that was my last deck. It's not. I think this is 10. Maybe this is 11. I hope it's not. So this was the first deck I ever worked with. I worked with this deck alone for like 15 years before I even got an oracle deck, and before I ever got another tarot deck. So I've had this particular deck since I was a teenager, and I'm 40, so it's been around the block. This is the Motherpeace Tarot. This is the mini version. I didn't even realize I had the mini version, but it is. There's a larger version too. And this is the Death card, and I would get this card all the time. So maybe this is where like my comfort with doing shadow work comes in, because I had to do it from this deck, just like forced me to confront all the difficult cards over and over again. But I find this deck super beautiful in its simplicity, in the snake shedding its skin and kind of like encircling the bones like in a womb, and you know, like the spine reminds me of like a rattle of like a rattlesnake, and I don't know, there's the leaves of fall, so it like brings in the season of the year. It's just such like a beautiful rendition of death that to me is not scary. But I've worked with the death and the devil card quite a lot over the years, and so that can be helpful when I'm doing readings for other people. Like, I promise these aren't terrible cards, but I love this rendition. A lot of this deck is problematic for me, you know, and was even over the years of using it, because yeah, there's just a lot of like not like a deck that uses a lot of cultural references without being of that culture is always going to come up against problems unless you have a very, very, very intimate knowledge of that culture. And so this deck has certainly been victim to that, as like, you know, cultural appropriation in its healthy forms has kind of rightly called out some things. So, but I've never showed this deck before, mostly because of that reason, but it is still something that is very much a part of my tarot journey, and that has, you know, in a sense will always be a part of my kind of tarot history. And so, yeah, it definitely has cards that are like burned into my mind forever. This is Hecate at the Crossroads, and the Lover's card, which is really different and unique. So yeah, I had this deck before I knew Mary K. Greer or what my life path card was. So those are my 10. These were like, I'm gonna do some like really hard for me to choose things that yeah, cards I had to weed out at the last second. Arrow of the Divine. This is the turtle, the world on the turtle's back, and again, just the coin suit always gets me. I love the Hangman with Sleeping Beauty, and going back to roses and brambles growing up all over the kingdom when she was asleep, and kind of going back to that blackberry idea. That same imagery came up in this card too. But I love this deck, and there's just so many. I call it my like Disney World deck, not because I love Disney World or anything, but it just has that like storybook kind of like quality to me. But it's such a beautiful deck. This one is one I love. This is the Zillich Tarot, and it's more thought-based, the Three of Decks. It's all a watercolor deck, which I just find so, her work and the level of detail and like evocative imagery that she's able to create with these watercolors just blows my mind. I love this deck so much. It's tarot in a 10. I don't have the lid on right now, but yeah, I love this kind of like Sisyphus idea with the Three of Discs and the hard work, you know, like I love these kind of like mundane messages in tarot too, and just like how difficult the work can be, but I love that the work is this beautiful crystal, you know, and in this particular one, as opposed to like the Sisyphus mythology, that like the work is worth it and it's this beautiful thing that you're like moving and carrying. I love this Eight of Wands, the like freedom from the rootedness of home, and yeah, it's just like a different, I mean, it's a great thought-based take for sure. But yeah, her imagery and like watercolors are so beautiful. I love the like lush cards that she has, the like kind of garden and bountiful, beautiful cards. But this deck is probably like very high on my list of most beautiful decks. So it was hard for me not to include a card from there. I have two only like honorable mentions from Oracle decks. This one is from Kim Cran's Archetype deck. This was the second Oracle deck I ever got. So I've had this deck for like 10 years. And this card is just like one of the stalker cards for me. And so it will always yeah, I will always have a relationship with this card as long as I may live. And oh, this is the Southern Gothic Oracle. I love, this is probably my favorite Oracle deck of all time. I'm from the South originally, even though I live in the Northwest now, and the artwork, like the imagery on these cards is just stellar. I've done my own artwork based off of this one. I just love it. But the Bayou, obviously I'm from Louisiana. Cornbread, this has a very strong activated memory for me. Yeah, Kudzu. I just love that deck as a whole. And this is my final honorable mention, which is the Stunning Tarot. And these two cards are just like, I love these two cards so much. I just feel like they're so beautiful. And again, obviously, my Lover's card being one that I almost always kind of grab and read into as much as possible. Anyway, those are my... Oh, this one comes up for me a lot too. Again, 7 of Discs. So I learned some things about myself today, that I have cards that come up for me all the time that I wasn't paying attention to, like the 7 of Discs, the 9 of Swords, in addition to the overt cards that tend to speak to me all the time from different tarot decks. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you participate. And thank you to Nova Luna for doing this tag. That was a fun one. Like I said, I think it's really valuable to like dive a little deeper into individual cards and learn from each other, because I think it makes our own tarot practice more rich. And that's honestly why I collect so many decks. I'm kind of I'm doing a big halt right now, which is also why I'm like, what is my future in TarotTube, and how am I going to bring these other parts of my work into the channel? So that's a big conundrum that's coming soon, and I think I sort of worked out. But even though I am taking a big pause on bringing any new decks into my collection, it is why I have so many, because there's so much nuance to all of these archetypes, and I find so much value in how all the different artists and creators explore these archetypes. And I think there's so much to learn, not only about tarot, but just about the life experience through working with tarot and working through various interpretations of tarot. I just think, yeah, like better than any self-help book I've ever found. So I hope you enjoy. I hope you subscribe or leave a comment or like if you enjoyed the video. It really helps me to grow, to figure out what content to create. So be well, take care, and I will see you soon. Bye.